Phil Egan is with us. Phil, good morning to you.
Morning, Ger. How are you doing?
A little bit of breaking news in the world of football in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, it looks like the Steven Gerrard deal to Aston Villa is done. It just needs to be signed, and 2.5 year deal.
Does he get a half and half scarf for like half Liverpool, half Villa? Is that what happens now?
That'll be for the 11th of December when Villa go to Anfield.
Yeah.
And it'll be an emotional day for him, I'm sure. But
not too emotional, I hope. He's got a job to do.
Absolutely, yeah. And do you know what?
Is this now like that the Ferguson era where the former players would go back to Man United and it would be a routine 2-0, 3-0 victory? It was like, I can take 3 from Hughesy here, another 3 there, 3 from Brucey. Yeah. Was that what this is like now?
I don't know. I don't think it's quite there yet. But you know, it's a big job for him because he hasn't been at Rangers that long, and I think when he got the Rangers job, a few people thought he was mad because they weren't in a great position at the time. Obviously, he won the title with them last season. Fair chance if he stayed there. I've seen enough from Celtic this season to suggest that they're going to push Rangers all the way, and maybe this is the kind of thing that'll actually tilt things in Celtic's favour. But in terms of Gerrard going to Villa, we wondered if Gerrard was at Rangers the whole time and whatever success he had and went straight into the Liverpool job, I think that would be madness from Liverpool. But now Liverpool will get to see what Gerrard's like with Aston Villa week in, week out. I know maybe you don't like the sounds of Villa being used as a guinea pig, but they're not. This is a really exciting squad they have. They're still trying to come to terms with the loss of Jack Grealish going to Manchester City, but they have some really good attacking players, so he has to try and tap into that. And by the sounds of things, he's going to bring the same coaching staff with him. Obviously, Michael Beale is his revered assistant, and he's going to be part of that setup. So it'll be interesting to see how things go. One thing Villa have been doing this season, though, is letting in too many goals. And you could see Dean Smith was trying to change things up with formation tweaks in the last few weeks, try and make them a bit more solid. But there's a really good squad there. I don't think there's any chance of Villa go down. I think there's 3 teams far worse off than Villa. So I think maybe this is the appointment that we'll see the new manager bounce and they'll start working their way up the league table. Where they go with Gerrard, what is the ceiling for Villa? Is it Europa League?
Yeah, it might be Europa League by way of the League Cup, because we were naming the teams out with Kenny yesterday who are good at the moment, right? So you've got your top 4 who are the big 4, and let's assume that Man United get a new manager next season and they're really good. And then assuming Eddie Howe can somehow get Newcastle not relegated, they're going to have massive amounts of money to spend. So them, Everton in their new stadium and apparently investing, Spurs with a good manager. You've got Leicester, maybe Brendan Rodgers is the Man United manager, but Leicester, their ability to generate good players in the transfer market has been excellent. And there's the top. Arsenal, sorry, there's 9. And West Ham, there's 10. There's 10 heavily invested, well-run clubs, and West Ham have just sold 27% to Polish billionaires, so they've had another injection of cash as well, and they're going to get another 20,000 seats in that stadium, meaning their matchday revenue will be excellent too. So Premier League is booming, and
that Villa squad is definitely should be nowhere near relegation. Well, okay, but the teams you've listed out there, there's every chance that they're maybe the 11th, 12th best squad in the Premier League realistically, but you're looking at the other managers around Steven Gerrard, and I would say that if we can all agree that maybe he's still unproven to a point, you look at the managers below him, like you've got Ranieri immediately below him, you've got Sean Dyche below him, you've got Eddie Howe below him. I mean, it depends what Norwich go for. It could be Lampard, so you wouldn't really count them in. And then above him, you've got directly above him Bielsa. That is, if you're just judging it on managers, that is a war down there about who actually is the better manager there, and you can make a case that maybe Gerrard's not better than any of them. Now, of course, the flip side is that he's so early in his career that he could be better than all of them, and that could be the ceiling that he really has. Also, his squad is really good. They shouldn't get relegated, but I think they're in a similar position to Newcastle, where it could happen. Remember, one of these 2 teams could very well get relegated.
Yeah. Too good to go
I
down.
don't know. Are you saying this just to tempt fate? Is it reverse jinx? Is that what it is?
No, not at all. The one thing I'm really interested in, Ger, is the way we kind of accept that players can do this. Like Erling Haaland is clearly using Borussia Dortmund to get to a higher plane. How does it feel to be used for career gain?
Powell says Villa allowing themselves to be used as a tester for Stevie, me and Liverpool. Are Villa that small time? Yes. Lenny says, I'm a Liverpool fan, but the disrespect to Aston Villa is unreal. A massive club and barely getting a mention. Gerrard's path to Liverpool seems to be the only talking point Alan says, Villa are in the mud, Ger, I'm afraid. I mean, that it definitely feels that way a little bit, you know?
You know, Villa, they are a huge club, and they showed last season signs that they were going in the right direction, and then it was such a massive blow to lose Jack Grealish. And then you look at Grealish playing for Manchester City, and he scores a goal for them, and it's just not the same, is it? It's not the same when Grealish scored that goal against West Ham and kept them in the Premier League.
I think they could get Grealish back for 25 million the season after next if things keep going the way they are, and it would be a 75 million profit, and you get him back 2 years later. I think that I don't think he's going to play for anybody else in the Premier League, but we'll see how that goes. On a scale of 1 to 10, how smart is this for Stevie G to take this gig now, Phil?
I would say it's a risk. Definitely. So I'd probably say maybe about a 6 out of 10, because if he absolutely bombs at Villa, then Liverpool won't go near him. And I get the point that the texter made about the disrespect for Villa, because he has a job to do at Villa. He won't. I'm sure someone's going to ask him when he takes over, is this where you want to be, the Premier League? You have aspirations of managing Liverpool, and I'm sure he will play that down, because he'll be like, I'm here to manage.
Yeah, can't
Aston
wait.
Villa.
Oh no, sorry, wrong answer. That's the truth.
Yeah, no, he wants to manage Aston Villa. It's a very attractive job.
Why didn't he take the Newcastle gig though? I think
Villa are in a better position than Newcastle right now.
They are.
Like you mentioned, Eddie Howe and Newcastle next season. I think if Newcastle stay up this summer, the serious problem they're going to have is nobody's going to want to sell to them. Especially, well, certainly in January, people are going to be looking at them going, okay, if we sell to them, add on maybe 20 or 30 million, they are minted. So
yeah, they could do a Leicester job on it, just set up this really innovative scouting department. The thing is, that'll take a few years, and Steven Gerrard wants to be Liverpool manager in a few years, so he sees more immediate success on the horizon with Aston Villa. I would venture that that's the reason.
I think you can buy those scouting departments by hiring the right people, though.
Yeah, true. Their contacts come immediately with them, and you can have a quick turnaround. Yeah.
But what we've seen so far from Newcastle is, could you trust them to get the right people in? Because they failed with their number one managerial target.
They did. They seem to be fishing in the right area, though. Conversation with Mark Overmars, you would think that's not bad. Michael Emenello, like a lot of people criticise what Chelsea did, but actually, if you look at the players and what they were able to do in terms of refreshing their squad at a net price of not very much until recently, then Chelsea were always consistently aggressive in signing the best young talent around Europe. They never played for Chelsea, they were loaned out, but they made a lot of money off that. So like, there are definitely clued in people who are out there who are available at the moment. And you know, the guy just left Liverpool. Where's he going?
Yeah.
Do we know where he's going?
No, we don't. Michael Edwards, we don't know where he's going. We just know that
if you were Newcastle,
he's taking his laptop with him at the end of the season, as he said.
Here, buddy. I mean, the door of infinite riches are yours, and
it wouldn't be a challenge for him, though. It wouldn't be a challenge for him to scout these unbelievable diamonds in the rough, where he'd actually just be given endless cash to say, go and get us a good player. I think actually the one thing I think, as soon as Michael Edwards leaves Liverpool, whoever gets that sit down interview with him would be fascinating, just to listen to him talk about scouting players. I don't even, if he became a contributor somewhere just to do this week in, week out, I'd be really interested to listen to him, because the way they scout players, it sounds like the most simple thing. You look at a player and go, yeah, he's a good player, let's sign him, but that's not the way Michael Edwards has worked over the last few years. So it's
his track record's pretty amazing.
Pretty good, yeah. And also as well, like we're talking about Steven Gerrard, Owen mentioned Frank Lampard. Imagine Gerrard v Lampard. Oh, I don't know if the Premier League can handle that. I don't think there will be enough space in the newspaper columns to handle a Gerrard v Lampard managerial duel.
An orgy of self-regard. That's what that'll be. and one of them will get relegated.
Yeah.
Likely.
In fairness,
potentially both of them.
No, if they were going into that game next week, Lampard's already got one hand behind his back, because Villa have a much better squad than Norwich.
We could do combined 11s of teammates of Gerrard and Lampard, but actually I think which would be a better team? A team of 11 Frank Lampards or a team of 11 Steven Gerrards?
Stevie G's, because he can play right back. Lampard can play central midfield. and up front, and that's it.
Quickly, let's at Chelsea FC this morning and get the Lampardian fans on Ger's case.
Let's move on and talk about the Republic of Ireland. Unless there's anything else you want to say about that. Like, do we know who Rangers' new manager is going to be, or what?
No, that'd be interesting to see, because I said they're right in the mix now. Obviously, I said I've seen enough of Celtic to suggest that they're going to be in the title race. Obviously, had a few bad results early on, but they're really good to watch, and you can see exactly what Postecoglou is trying to do. Sure, they still make the odd mistake and they can be a bit naive at times, but they're brilliant to watch. I was watching them last week in Europe, and full value for their win.
Sorry, my last question is here. Do you think Steven Gerrard's going to be a good manager?
I don't know. I sometimes when I listen to him talk, he doesn't strike me as somebody that is going to embrace things that, like,
no,
attack it. I mean, is he one of these people that worries more about losing than going for a win? Like, you know, these managers that are more reactive. But so you could ask that question, like, is he going to be a good Villa manager? There's a difference with, is he going to be a good Villa manager, or could he be a good Liverpool manager?
I'm not sure there is that much of a difference anymore. I understand the point you're making. One is a super club, and so therefore has all the perils of being a super club, and you've got to manage all the egos, and you've got to manage up and you've got to manage down. At Villa, Stevie G is going to be the man. There's going to be nobody in that dressing room who's going to look at him and go, oh, I'm better than you. And so it's a different challenge. But I still feel like if you want to be a successful manager in the long term, you have to stand for something. Your team must have an identity, and that identity must be modern in terms of how football is played, and it must have a deep understanding of coaching in every position on the field, and how you can get players to play in different formations for different challenges.
Absolutely. And I think
that's not CVG.
Well, we're going to find out. We're going to see entertainment. Are the Villa fans going to be entertained this season by watching Steven Gerrard's team? And if they're not, then that works against them big time, because you mentioned the competition in the Premier League, and you know, you think of even the Ireland fans going along to the game tonight. We've all had to suffer with such misery for the last 20 months that it really hits home, where sport is that escapism, but you want to be entertained. You can deal with grinding out the odd win, but if it's the same dire stuff every week, you know, you turn off it pretty quickly.
I think that if they stay up and they're safe with 3 or 4 games to go, I think that I think at worst you could say the jury is still out on Steven Gerrard. Like, I don't think that's a bad return. Like, they finished 11th last season.
If he comes and says, I'm going to play the same way Liverpool play, high intensity, high press, go, rock and roll, heavy metal, whatever, I'm like, okay, then you've got an identity. But if it's like Steve Bruce kind of mixing and matching, oh, well, you know, it's Man United. Look, I mean, if they want to play in the counter-attack, fine, I can buy into that too, but there needs to be an identity quickly established, and he's going to have to win people over when it comes to that.
Sounds like he's going to have to win you over, Ger.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
It could be the new Dave O'Leary. I mean, like scraping by, just about good enough to not get relegated, and then ultimately sowing the seeds of the eventual relegation.
New Martin O'Neill, future Ireland manager.
I mean, Liverpool's unique connection with the Republic of Ireland is long established. Right, let's talk about Ireland. Are you picking Seamus Coleman tonight? If you know that Coleman's going to play 90 minutes between tonight and the Luxembourg game, what are you doing, Phil?
I'd play him tonight. I'd play him tonight and see how he comes through that game. I think this is I know, like, the Luxembourg game is seen as the one that's not more important, but how to judge Stephen Kenny, because if Ireland lose tonight against Portugal, nobody's going to turn on Kenny unless it's an absolute hiding. But I'd like to think we've got to the stage now where we're a bit more well organised, the players know the roles a bit better, that if we do lose, it'll be just a lack of quality. It won't be from a really bad performance. Whereas the Luxembourg game, we think back to when they beat us, and going to Luxembourg on Sunday, you want to finish strongly. And who knows, third place might be still up for grabs, depends on how Luxembourg and Azerbaijan go. Luxembourg know if they win, then we have to get 4 points from the last 2 games to finish ahead of them. So I would go with Seamus Coleman tonight, because also he's your captain. 52,000 are going to be there. It's going to be a big night for some of these players, these younger players that haven't experienced this atmosphere. You need experience in the squad, in the team, on the pitch. If Seamus Coleman doesn't play, look, we've seen he's been left out by Stephen Kenny before. He's not going to be in a huff about it, but then that obviously should suggest that he's been rested for Sunday. And I know people think, how can you rest him? It's Luxembourg, but you also have to factor in that he has had injuries this season.
Really bad injuries, yeah.
And it's hamstring injuries. You can't just rush people back. You get more hamstring injuries when you start hitting the red zone where you're fatiguing, and that's exactly what could happen. So if he doesn't play, we obviously know Matt Doherty will start, and then it probably looks like James McLean will get the nod as the left wing back. So, it's not catastrophic if Seamus Coleman doesn't play, but I would like to see him play, just the experience of that big occasion.
He didn't play in the 5-1 defeat against Denmark. Cyrus Christie was right back that night. Is that the last night that the stadium will have been totally full?
No, the other Denmark game.
The 1-1. Yeah, the Mick McCarthy.
It was totally full. Okay.
Game, yeah, that was the 1-0 draw. Matt Doherty scored.
Blank that from my mind.
And I actually remember so vividly Mick McCarthy basically planting the seed, almost as if he knew that the fact that Matt Doherty had scored and everyone was mad to get Matt Doherty into the team. He basically said, yeah, Matt Doherty did well to score, but don't forget he was at fault for the goal, for the Danish goal. It's like, so when I leave him out for this, when I leave him out for this playoff against Slovakia, which ultimately never happened for Mick McCarthy, don't be surprised, because I planted that seed already. But
Ireland should have won that night. They played well, and it was one of those moments where it was like, why haven't they played like this throughout the entire campaign?
Yeah, look, I thought Denmark played well within themselves that night. They knew what they needed.
No Seamus Coleman that night either.
Yeah, so Seamus Coleman didn't play in the Germany game either, the famous 1-0.
He's only got 60 odd caps.
He had a terrible injury, didn't he?
Yeah, and
also, to my head I would have said 80, 90.
Yeah, well, don't forget Trapattoni left him out of the Euro 2012 squad because apparently he wasn't good enough defensively. So you kind of laugh at it now, don't you?
Yeah, there's no other way around it. So yeah, like that would have been an interesting sliding doors, actually, the non-pandemic version of that Republic of Ireland team, and what might have happened in that Slovakia playoff. So to clarify then, if Coleman doesn't play, then Phil, what is it for you? Is it Nathan Collins straight in there at right back, or
no? I'm
or at the right of the three, I should say.
Three, yeah, absolutely. And I think with Nathan Collins as well, you get a bit more aerial ability there. He'd be stronger in the air than Omobama Daly. Omobama Daly is probably a bit more comfortable on the ball, but Collins, for a guy that's 6'4" plus, is comfortable on the ball, and he's shown already this season when he was thrown into the Burnley starting 11. He's more than up to it at this level. So, but again, it would be a big night for him, because you're getting thrown in to make your first senior start, a competitive start against Portugal, and you're up against the likes of Ronaldo and Jota and probably João Felix as well. So that's why it wouldn't be a bad thing to have Seamus Coleman there. If he's not there, as I said, I think we're at the stage now where the players are a lot more comfortable in that three at the back, wing back system. So the other calls then to make, you would imagine Jamie McGrath starts. I mean, it didn't look good when he came off on a stretcher against Rangers a few weeks ago, but he played at the weekend. He really fits into the team well. And then I would think Edith starts. And then,
do you? Because I think Alan Brown starts.
Yeah, Alan Brown is a player that obviously wasn't available last month, and Mick McCarthy and Stephen Kenny both really like him.
Yeah.
He has that ability to time his run well, and he can get a goal for you. So that wouldn't be a surprise for me. You think maybe instead of Jamie McGrath?
I do, yeah. And I think there's actually a possibility that Adam Ida doesn't start, and that it's Robinson, McLean and Brown. And
more of like a 3-4-3 rather than
a little bit. And the two lads can obviously offer very strong defensive support when you need it, but they're also kind of short outlets. So if you want to play the ball long, you've got Colin Robinson to run into wherever you're playing it. But the two lads will come short and offer an opportunity for somebody to pass it to, and you crowd that midfield area where they are technically better than us. I mean, that's definitely their strength. And I don't know. I don't know enough about how concerned you need to be about João Cancelo running the game, and does he do the same for Portugal as he does for City? Probably not. Probably Portugal aren't as evolved in their thinking about how they use him, but he might be, and he might just decide to take the game over. So are we actually better having Adamita up front and making runs and pulling them back? I don't know, but
yeah, I think that there's a shout to have Ida play. Obviously, we know he's not getting game time at Norwich, so what can he do in terms of a full 90 minutes at the intensity that's going to be required? But then you have a nice option to bring Ogbonna on, and say with 25 minutes to go, that's a nice option to have a guy that just is so direct and has such pace that can exploit any space that is left. And it's a strange one where Portugal obviously have won every game in the group bar one, which they should have won. They should have won in Belgrade. They were 2-0 up. Then they score a perfectly legitimate goal at the end to win, but the ref didn't have his watch with him, so it wasn't given. The goal line technology wasn't there. They know that if they draw, then they can just get a draw against Serbia on the final day on Sunday, and they top the group. Saying that, though, I'd say they'd feel a lot more comfortable going into that final game with a few points to spare over Serbia, because then Serbia obviously have to maybe come out a bit more against them. But yeah, no, it's going to be a really great atmosphere, and I think the real feel-good factor going into it.
it's like a tipping point. If they could just tonight.
Well,
come on, Irish Sporting Gods, don't fuck us over like you always do.
Yeah, and look, I think even if Ireland played to the best of their ability, I don't know if they're capable of beating this Portuguese side. But if they got a draw and they really created chances and they had a go, I think people would be bouncing out of the Aviva tonight.
Back in love with them. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, I think there's a lot of love for the squad now, because there was a picture posted there of the Ireland team that drew 1-1 with Portugal when Mick McCarthy was manager, and you just look at the quality of the team, and people are realistic enough to know that we don't have those players at the moment.
No Keane, no Duff, no Keane.
Like Roy Keane was exceptional in that game.
He was a pretty good footballer. What's the score tonight?
I think Ireland actually are going to score. So I'm kind of thinking it could be 1-1 or Portugal do a 2-1 again. It's so important that we start well, because the crowd is going to play such a big role that the longer the game goes without Portugal scoring, then obviously the better for us. And if we can score early, well...
Owen?
I mean, it's the Republic of Ireland game.
1-1? 1-1, okay.
The default.
Well, I'm concerned that they might beat us 2-0 tonight, but... as Simon Cox said earlier on, if the performance is good and we lose, we're still on an upward trajectory. Feel good stuff. Thanks a million. Enjoy the game. Owen, enjoy the game too.